You begin walking just after the sun slips its first gold onto the low trees. It's quiet, but not empty, the kind of quiet that feels held, as if the landscape is not lacking in sound, but rich with waiting. Beneath your feet, uneven stones stretch forward, deep grey, faded white, smoothed and grooved by centuries of footsteps, hoofbeats, cartwheels, and weather. This is not a modern road. It does not apologize for its cracks, does not smooth itself for ease. It asks you to adjust your gait, to feel each shift, to notice. This is the Via Appia Antica, the ancient Roman road that once cut through the very bone of Italy. Rome, in her hunger for permanence, built this road not just to connect cities, she built it to last. 2,000 years later, it still lies here, curling softly through cypress trees and mossy ruins, quiet in the morning light. And you, a visitor, a wanderer with no conquest or purpose, walk it not as a route to anywhere, but as an invitation to slow your thinking. There is a peculiar calm that comes from walking on something that has been walked for millennia. The stones feel thick with memory, but not heavy. They give nothing away at first. They just are stoic, worn, enduring. Your footsteps fall where Roman soldiers once marched, where merchants pulled mules heavy with amphorae, where priests whispered Latin prayers, and exiles left silently toward distant corners of empire. You think of sandals pressing down, of souls that never returned, of those who once held maps in their minds and hearts, but now are forgotten by name. The road remains, the feet do not. On either side of you, time rises in subtle forms, crumbled. Mausoleums, tilted tombstones, squat ruins now softened by vines. The air smells faintly of warm dust and old pine. The cypress trees, tall and narrow, stand like green candles burning slowly in the breeze. Their shadows fall gently across the road, as if tracing the distance of days. You pause at a circular tomb half swallowed by earth, its inscription too faded to read. Still, you feel it meant something once. Someone lay beneath it who was loved, or feared, or at least remembered, for a time. This was once the road of honor. In ancient Rome, no one was buried within the city walls. The Via Appia became a ceremonial corridor of memory, lined with elaborate tombs that spoke silently to every traveler. They said, "Look what I was. Remember me." Now those voices have faded. The marble has dulled. The names are more lichen than letter, and still the road holds them gently, as a mother might hold the quiet toys of a child long grown, further along. You pass a stretch of the road where grass has grown thick between the stones. Here the geometry becomes uneven. The structure begins to forget itself. And this, oddly, is when you feel it most alive, not when it's perfect, but when it relaxes. The grass grows because the road no longer resists. It no longer pushes. Forward, it simply rests, and so do you. You slow your pace, your breathing. You begin to notice things too small for speed. A line of ants working across a warm stone, a snail clinging to the base of a wild fennel stem, the worn edge of an inscription that once proclaimed an imperial name and now reads more like a sigh. There is no urgency here. The empire that once stretched its banners over continents has quieted to dust and museum light. But here, in the half-forgotten country outside Rome, the story lingers in softer form. You come upon the remains of an aqueduct in the distance, arches spanning a pale meadow, their bones still sturdy though cracked. The Romans were engineers. Yes, but also poets of permanence. They laid their roads in straight lines, over mountains, through marshes, refusing to bend unless absolutely necessary. The Via Appia was no mere convenience. It was a statement. Rome moves forward. You, however, are not moving forward. You are drifting sideways into a memory not quite yours, into an empire that does not ask for your allegiance, only your attention. Once, this road connected Rome to Capua and later to Brindisi. It linked the capital to the southeast, to Greece, to Egypt, to the great ideas and rival powers beyond the sea. It carried diplomacy and war, grain and gossip, sorrow and celebration. Now it carries only the sun across its surface, the whisper of leaves, the occasional cyclist riding gently past. The Queen of Roads, once laden with ambition, now lounges beneath wildflowers, and still, she holds a kind of grace. You stop at a place where the road bends slightly, where an old boundary stone leans. There is no plaque here, nothing to explain. But your body knows. It's a place where you could sit, breathe, feel. The stones are warm from the morning sun. You lower yourself onto one, letting your hands rest on its smooth top. It feels less like stone and more like story, like the punctuation at the end of a very long sentence. A breeze rises. It smells faintly of time and old brick. Somewhere far off, a church bell chimes. You watch as a lizard darts between the cracks in the stone, then disappears. The moment is complete in its quietness. You are not trying to learn history. You are just letting it settle around you. It occurs to you now that the Via Appia did not end because it was destroyed. It ended because it was no longer needed. Cities shifted. Empires changed. Rivers altered their courses. The urgency faded. And the road, once proud and direct, was allowed to relax, to soften, to give way to grass and shadow. Not lost, just quieter. You close your eyes. The stones beneath you are steady and warm. Your heartbeat slows. Time blurs. The road does not care who you are. It has carried too many names. But it holds. You all the same. Not as a traveler. Not as a student of history. Just as someone who, like it, has grown tired of hurrying. This is not a detour. This is the way, and now, as you lie back on the cool edge of history, the wind curling over the ancient stones, you realize the road no longer asks you to follow it. It invites you to rest. Let the empire fade into olive groves. Let the marching stop. Let the dust settle in every carved letter. You are not late. You are not early. You are here. The road forgot where it was going, and that's how it finally arrived. So sleep now in its gentle memory. Sleep beneath the cypress. Sleep on the stones that no longer lead. Sleep with the road that learned to pause. Asterisk. There is no single line. Across the map, no clear beginning, no precise destination, only paths like veins stretching east and west, sometimes splitting, sometimes vanishing into mountains, deserts, or myth. And yet you find yourself here, somewhere along it, your feet planted in a dry ripple of earth, your breath full of sun-warmed dust and faint spices no longer traded. You're walking a memory that once connected half the world, but now sleeps. Under wind and sand, this is the Silk Road, or at least a trace of it. It was never one road, but many. A tangled web of trade, language, desire, and chance that stretched from Shion to Antioch, from Samarkand to Baghdad, from the mountains of Central Asia to the shores of the Mediterranean. It carried not just silk, but glass, gold, jade, porcelain, ink, incense, plague, poems, and faith. But most of all, it carried people, strangers who became hosts, travelers who became translators, merchants who became myths. Now, the path you walk feels still, abandoned, but it is not empty. There are grooves in the earth where caravan wheels once turned. There are bones beneath the ground, not tragic, not haunted, just gently part of it. A few stones remain arranged like markers of forgotten camps. The air is hot, but not harsh. It hums like an oven just turned off. Even the silence here seems to stretch in both directions. You picture the long camel trains, winding through the sand with their necks swaying like ships at sea. Bells would chime from their harnesses. Their padded feet would rise and fall like soft metronomes on the earth. They moved slowly, not out of laziness, but wisdom. The desert demands patience. Each journey was a lesson in endurance, and yet there was something almost romantic about it. A caravan of silks glinting in the sun, bronze trinkets tucked in leather sacks, scrolls wrapped in linen. Stories whispered beside fires beneath a vault of unfamiliar stars. You crouch now beside a rounded stone, smooth and pitted. It may have been a milestone once, or part of a ruined outpost. There is no inscription, but that's fine. The road wasn't about permanence. It was about movement. Every trader who crossed this land left behind not statues or temples, but stories. Stories that didn't need to last in stone, because they lasted in breath. In translation, in echo, the Silk Road was not just about silk. That was only one thread in a tapestry of exchange. Ideas moved faster than goods. Buddhism traveled west. Mathematics came east. Languages brushed against each other in markets and mosques, in caravansaries and desert shrines. A single coin might change hands a dozen times before crossing a border. A single phrase might become prayer. A single recipe might survive 1,000 miles by being tasted, not written. But those cities, Merv, Nishapa, Dunhuang, Hotambukhara, so alive with traders and scholars, are now soft with time. Their walls have fallen into the dust. Their markets are gone. Their libraries are whispers. The silence that fills them is not sad. It's vast. It feels like what happens when a conversation has ended, and both speakers smile across the quiet. You climb a small rise, the wind at your back. The horizon is not sharp here. It melts. And you realize the road is not a line at all, but a space, a wide, meandering suggestion that guided people across peril and hope. It was shaped by what passed through it, and it was never the same. Twice, you wonder how many feet have stood where yours are now. Thousands, millions. You're part of something immense, but it doesn't make you small. It makes you part of the flow. You imagine an old merchant, hunched and sunburned, his robes stiff with salt and thyme. He is speaking to a stranger in a dialect he barely understands, pointing to a bolt of silk the color of crushed berries. The stranger nods, then unwraps a pouch of lapis stones that glint like fallen stars. The exchange is quiet. Eyes do the talking. Trust is a tool here, just as important as the camel or the wheel. You wonder if either of them knew they were changing history. Probably not. They were just tired men with dust in their throats, doing what they'd always done, moving, meeting, making meaning. You sit now beneath the shallow shade of a lone shrub. The world feels wide here, open but not empty. It breathes slowly. The wind brushes your arms with stories that no longer need to be spoken. You close your eyes, and for a moment you are part of the caravan. You are swaying with the motion of a beast that knows the way. You are holding a flask of water close to your lips. You are listening to a song in a language you'll never learn, but will always remember, and then it passes. The image fades, but the calm remains. You are not in search of spice or silk. You are not racing the sun or calculating profit. You are just here, sitting on a road that no longer goes anywhere, but still carries something. The Silk Road did not disappear. It dissolved, like perfume in air, like a word after it's spoken and understood. Its roots are overgrown, but the idea of it lingers, that humans, even across deserts and danger, still seek one another. That the road between you and someone far away is never fully gone, just sleeping. You lie back now, your hands beneath your head, the wind curling in your ears like old conversations. The sky turns soft above you. The dust cools beneath you. There is nothing more to carry, no weight to bear. Only stillness, only peace. Let the camels fade into shadow. Let the spices rest in broken jars. Let the languages forget their urgency. The thread has unraveled, but the fabric still holds. Close your eyes on this road that no longer leads. It has taken you exactly where you need to be, not further, but deeper, not richer, but quieter. Sleep, now, in the scent of lost saffron. Sleep in the hush between two distant cities. Sleep in the soft breath of the road that once glowed with every step. Asterisk, you step into shadow, where the heat of the world gives way to something older, not cooler exactly, but calmer, wrapped in green. The air smells of wet earth, carved stone, and memory. Here, in the quiet paths that lead to Angkor Wat, the forest walks with you, roots curling like fingers through every crack of civilization. The road is not paved in the Roman sense, not marked like the Silk Roads, but it's here. Beneath the thick layer of leaves and time, a ceremonial spine laid long ago for gods and kings and elephants, now walked mostly by wind. Each step you take brushes against history, but gently, as if not to wake it. This road was once grand. It stretched between temples and shrines, linked cities to sacred waters, bore the weight of processions that shimmered with gold, bells, and barefoot prayers. But now it sighs. The jungle is not in a hurry, neither are you. Stone lions flank what used to be an avenue. They've lost their sharpness, their teeth worn smooth, their haunches swallowed by moss, but their presence remains. They guard nothing now except silence. You pass beneath a gate carved so precisely that the stone still holds the shape of hands pressed in devotion, of gods watching through almond-shaped eyes. Vines wrap their faces now, softening them into something almost tender. The road beneath your feet is uneven, fractured in places where the jungle insisted on being remembered to. Centuries ago, this path bore the heartbeat of an empire. The Khmer kings, in their grandeur and devotion, ordered temples that mirrored the sky. The roads connecting them weren't just for traffic. They were alignments of belief, of power, of cosmic order. They led not only from place to place, but from the mortal world into something imagined, celestial. Pilgrims once journeyed here in reverent procession, bringing offerings, song, sweat, and story. You hear none of that now, only the occasional rustle of a monkey, the far cry of a bird, the soft press of your own footsteps dissolving into dirt. You pause at a tree, a giant fig, whose roots have enveloped a staircase. The stairs still descend into something sacred, but you cannot follow them without first stepping over the root as if asking permission. This tree was not part of the plan, but it is now part of the place. It did not conquer the temple, it became part of its dream. You run your fingers along the bark. It is smooth in places, furrowed in others, like a face that has aged with grace. The tree is older than you, younger than the stones, and exactly the right age for now. Angkor Wat itself rises ahead, not in sudden splendor, but with slow certainty, as if grown from the earth rather than built atop it. Its towers reflect in the lotus-filled moat like old thoughts drifting upward. But this chapter is not about Angkor Wat's grandeur. It's about the road that leads to it, the path that thousands once walked and few now remember. A path that remains not in blueprints or maps, but in the subtle guidance of trees, of broken balustrades, of footprints too soft to preserve, but too sacred to vanish. You sit beneath a crumbling column. Its carvings still whisper, dancers, mid-motion stories, mid-telling. The stone does not ask for understanding. It asks for pause. You give it. Around you, the jungle breathes, not as an intruder, but as an heir. The empire is not being destroyed by nature. It is being held by it, absorbed into the slow rhythm of vines and shade. Once, roads like this bore processions of elephants draped in silk, priests bearing incense, children trailing behind with wide eyes. Flags fluttered. Chants rose. Every step was a ritual. Now the rituals are smaller. The hush of a leaf falling, the shimmer of dew, the patience of lichen and still. The road remembers, not as direction, but as invitation, not as stone, but as presence. You lie back, letting the cool earth embrace you. Above you, tree roots stretch like rib cages. The road no longer leads to kings or shrines. It leads to stillness. The jungle has not overrun the path. It has softened it, returned it to something more forgiving. Sleep now, where footsteps once chanted in cadence. Sleep beside the lions that no longer guard. Sleep beneath a canopy not of empire, but of leaves. The road has not vanished. It has become breath. It has become still. The morning air clings to the dust in a familiar way, not heavy, not sharp, just enough to remind you this place has known many feet before yours. You're standing at the edge of what once was a masterpiece of logistics, a line drawn across mountains, valleys, rivers, and empire. This was the royal road of Persia, a spine of purpose and order, stretching from Susa to Sardis. 2,700 kilometers, carved with the precision of power and the ambition of eternity. You begin to walk, slowly. There's no reason to rush. The road has forgotten how to move quickly. Once, it carried imperial couriers so fast they could cross the entire empire in mere days. Now it carries wind. The route passes through parched land where the sun lies low over gold-dusted hills, and occasional clusters of cracked stones suggest the ghosts of way stations, inns, or the outlines of forgotten towns. You brush your fingers against one. The stone is warm and porous, as if still breathing faint echoes of hoofbeats long faded. This road was once the pride of the Achaemenid Empire, connecting Persepolis to the world beyond, uniting distant governors and cities into something that felt like control. The Angarium royal messengers galloped across it day and night, never stopping, one rider handing the message to the next, each post perfectly spaced, each section timed like a heartbeat. Neither snow nor rain nor darkness of night, they said, And long before that became a postal motto, it was already a promise. In Persia now, the road no longer beats. It rests. You picture a rider thundering past, cloak billowing, horse foaming, a message clutched tight, destined for some king or satrap who waits with anxious calm. It was more than mail. It was the empire's breath, its pulse. Delay could mean war, famine, rebellion. But that urgency has since dissolved into the soil. You walk now where horses once ran, but the only sound is the soft thump of your own souls pressing into the earth. Here and there, the land flattens and the ancient road becomes clearer. Rows of stones, still half set, still reaching for somewhere else. But the world has changed around them. The empires have risen and fallen like breath. Borders have shifted, languages died, names lost. Still, this line across the landscape endures like a crease in folded cloth, no longer useful, but still present. You come to a ridge where a small, square stone marker stands. It's barely more than a stub now, its inscription long worn smooth. Yet you know what it once did. It counted distance. It measured power. Each leg of the journey was recorded, each stop known. But the road never asked who you were, only how fast you could move. Today, you move slowly, deliberately. You stop often. You sit on rocks. You watch birds circle over ruined outposts. You let time leak out of your thoughts. The road doesn't measure you. It frees you. There was a time when this road connected cities like Ecbatana, Babylon, Nineveh, all strung like pearls along its length. Now, many of those names live more in legend than in place. But the road still touches them, even if only in spirit. You feel that connection, not in direction, but in tone. It hums in the silence. You pass a dry stream where once a bridge stood, its foundation stones lie tumbled, like teeth knocked loose by time. There is no more river to cross, only memory. The path on the other side picks up again, as if nothing happened. And perhaps that is the road's quiet lesson. It continues, even when its pieces are gone. Somewhere in the distance, the call to prayer drifts in faintly. It does not disturb the stillness. It deepens it. You sit in the low shade of a crumbling stone arch, its purpose long since lost, its roof open to sky. The arch doesn't span anything anymore. It simply stands because it was once meant to last. You close your eyes and imagine a letter being passed from rider to rider. You wonder what it said. Perhaps a treaty, perhaps a demand, perhaps just words from one human to another, written in ink that has long since flaked away. That message has vanished, but the road it rode upon is still here, silent, patient, waiting for nothing in particular. You stretch out in the dust. The warmth beneath you is not uncomfortable. It is grounding. The road has become a bed, a thread, a soft line connecting not cities anymore, but breaths. You are not a messenger. You have no scroll to deliver, but still you have arrived. Let the horses sleep in their long-forgotten stalls. Let the ink dry on messages no one will read again. Let the miles between Susa and Sardis unspool into sky. You are not here to carry news. You are here to carry silence, and to be carried by it. Sleep now where kings once waited for word. Sleep in the space between steps. Sleep on the stones that no longer rush. Asterisk, you drift, more than walk, beside the water's slow gleam. The sun is low and soft, casting everything in the gentle gold of almost forgotten time. The Nile doesn't hurry, it never has. It flows like breath, like lullabies, like calendars written in silt. It is not a road by stone or wheel. It is a road of liquid rhythm, a road that once carried empires, now moving only birds in reflection. You follow the river's edge along a narrow path dusted with fine sand. It isn't marked on most maps. It isn't declared a highway or a pilgrimage. But this track, worn by centuries of steps, shadows a journey older than most cities, the water road of ancient Egypt, where kings floated toward tombs, gods floated toward memory, and grain floated toward every table. You pause, letting your eyes trace the river's curve, as if it too might lead you home. Once, the pharaohs sailed here, their boats long and carved with eyes, sails swelling with wind and meaning. This river wasn't just water, it was the spine of civilization. Everything Egypt needed came from it: food, timing, protection, direction. Every rising and falling tide whispered the future. The Nile didn't just nourish the land, it told it what to do. You crouch beside the path, letting your fingers run through dry, rustling grass. In the distance, papyrus nods in the wind. There are no processions today, no priests in linen, no barges bearing alabaster statues or lotus offerings. But the road still holds the shape of them, like a bed holds the shape of a sleeper long gone. The ancient towns that clung to the banks, Thebes, Memphis, Abydos, rise only in memory now. Some stones remain, some columns, but most of what was sacred has been folded into the hush of fields. The farmers still plant in rhythm with the Nile, though fewer remember why the dates matter. The calendar once began with the flood. Now, the flood is mostly managed. The rhythm survives in echoes. You come across a shard of something, maybe pottery, maybe stone. It's small, curved, colored faintly, with something once vivid. You don't need to know what it was. It's enough to know it stayed. Enough to know it belonged to someone who looked out at this same river, felt this same wind, breathed this same peace. You set it down gently, just as it was. Further along the path, a mud brick wall crumbles into the ground, its shape suggesting a home or maybe a shelter. The road once ran beside homes like this. People lived near it, not just for trade, but for time, for the sense of being close to what moved. You sit beside the wall now. The wind brushes past. The reeds sway, whispering secrets they've whispered forever. You don't need to hear the words. Just the tone is enough. The Nile Road didn't need milestones or borders. It was its own logic. Boats moved with the current, or against it when needed. Men rode in rhythm, and women washed linens at the edge. Children followed goats and fetched water. The river carried royalty and rice in equal measure. It saw crowns and sandals, plagues and prayers, and always the same moon reflected in its surface. You lie back now, your body light against the earth. The scent of water and dust surrounds you. The Nile murmurs beside you, unchanged in essence. And in the hush you realize the river wasn't just the road, it was also the mirror. It showed the sky to the earth, the past to the present. You see your face in its shifting silver now, soft and blurred, not needing to be sharp, not needing to be seen above. Herons glide. A distant cowbell rings faintly. The sun lowers. Shadows stretch like hieroglyphs across the sand. The road has no beginning or end here. It is not built, it is breathed. Let the barges fade into myth. Let the stone temples sink into sand. Let the prayers once carried by water ripple out forever. You are not following the pharaohs, you are floating beside them. The river carries no crown, only calm. Sleep now, by the river that shaped gods and grain. Sleep in the hush between floods. Sleep in the pulse of the Nile, where time slows to liquid breath. The first thing you notice is the sound of your own breath. It's not labored, just louder now, a steady hush in your ears, matching the rhythm of your feet on the stone. Air is thinner here, lighter, like memory at the edge of waking. You are climbing, though the path beneath you doesn't feel like ascent. It feels like a sense. Gentle cousin, a slow drift upward into a space where the sky kneels down to meet you. This is one of the Inca trails, and even though your boots are modern and your pace is your own, the stones beneath you have been placed by hands long gone. Each slab was carved and fitted by people who understood this land not as background, but as body. The Andes rise around you, jagged, green, veined with shadow and cloud. The trail doesn't cut through them. It follows them, listens to them, folds into their lines. The Incas built this vast network of trails, Capac own. They called it across mountains and valleys, deserts and jungles, linking 1,000,000 lives from Quito to Cusco to Lake Titicaca. This road you're on is just one tendon of a continent-spanning spine. It once carried messages on foot, royal decrees, llamas burdened with salt and feathers, runners bearing quipus, knotted cords that counted and told. It once hummed with voices. Now it whispers. You stop where the trail narrows between two rock walls. The air shifts. A hummingbird stutters past, its wings a blur of color and time. The stone here is smooth, not from erosion, but from centuries of bare feet and sandals. Quiet friction slowly shaping the path. You press your hand to the wall. It's cool, still, patient. It has seen thunder and drought. It has seen thousands pass and vanish. You are just one more shape moving through its memory. Further up, the trail becomes a staircase, uneven and steep, but there is no rush. You take it slowly, pausing often, not from fatigue but from reverence. Every few steps, the land opens beside you, valleys rolling far below, rivers gleaming like threads of silver dropped carelessly across moss. There are terraces carved into the slopes where corn once grew in disciplined arcs. There are watchtowers now hollow, but still standing, their shadows long and light. You wonder about the chasqui, the runners who carried messages across these roads. They ran without horses or wheels, just breath and strength and rhythm. Relay stations dotted the trail, where a runner would arrive breathless, hand off the message, and another would begin, like blood moving through veins, like wind through reeds. And now you carry no message, but you feel carried all the same, not by speed, but by stillness. There's no noise here, except for the occasional wind or distant bird call, and even that feels part of the trail. This road doesn't echo, it absorbs. It doesn't lead you forward as much as inward, into your own heartbeat, into the mountains, hush, into the deeper silence behind the thoughts. At a bend in the path, you find a stone bench built into the slope. You sit. The sky is close here, like it's exhaling over your shoulders. The grass grows in tufts beside the path. You imagine a young traveler 500 years ago sitting in this same spot, sipping coca tea from a gourd, watching clouds slide over the peaks. You imagine they were tired, but not unhappy. These roads were hard, but not cruel. They asked for presence, not conquest. You think of Machu Picchu, hidden just over the next ridge, folded into cliffs and sun. But you don't need to reach it. This moment is complete. The path doesn't exist just to deliver you to wonder. The path is the wonder. These stones, laid by hand, lifted and shaped and aligned, have waited so long not for footsteps, but for attention, for pause, for breath. You lie back on the bench, stone warming your spine. The trail continues upward, but you do not follow it yet. A hawk circles above, the sun filters through thin cloud. You feel weightless, but grounded, like the road has anchored you not to place, but to presence. The Inca road isn't gone. Parts of it are buried, others cracked or overgrown. But much remains, not as destination, but as invitation, not as power, but as peace. Let the runners sleep in their mountain shelters. Let the quipus hang quiet in empty niches. Let the path stretch into mist, unbothered by arrival. You are not lost. You are on the stone that remembers. You are in the place where clouds brush history. Sleep now, where the stairs no longer climb. Sleep in the curve of the land's old intention. Sleep on the spine of a world that learned how to listen. The desert does not shout. It waits. It wraps everything in soft warmth and long stillness. And then, only if you're quiet, it begins to show you things. You're walking through the sick, a narrow canyon that doesn't feel like a road until your feet start recognizing its rhythm. The stone walls rise high above you, curving like drapery in amber and ochre, close enough to whisper but never touch. The sun filters down in slender shafts, warming only the edges. There is silence here, thick and slow. Even your footsteps seem reluctant to echo. This isn't a road made by empire. It was made by water. Carved over millennia, the gorge was once a riverbed, now dry but not empty. The Nabateans chose this place not for conquest, but for concealment. They built their city of Petra where it would remain hidden, its grandeur tucked into cliffs, its wealth protected by the geography of mystery. And yet, they welcomed the world. The desert was never a barrier. It was a filter. As you move deeper into the sick, the walls shift color. With every turn, coral, blush, rust, rose. These shades are not painted. They're layered, ancient, swirled by time and pressure, touched by sun and shaped by wind. You run your hand along one side. It feels smooth and impossibly warm, like the surface of a memory. Then, almost without warning, the walls open, and there it is. The treasury, or alcazna, a facade so intricate, it looks like it was imagined rather than carved. But it's stone, and it's been here for over 2,000 years. The details are impossibly delicate. Columns, eagles, figures, cornices, all chiseled directly into the cliff face, as if the rock had always longed to become a temple. It glows in the light like frozen fire, and yet it's quiet, reverent. You step closer without meaning to, drawn by the sense that this building has been waiting just for you. But this chapter isn't about Petra's grandeur. It's about how you got here. Because long before the canyon whispered open, the desert was laced with roads, camel trails that pulsed with trade, frankincense, myrrh, spices, silks, pearls, even glass. These roads weren't paved, they were worn, stamped into the sand by caravan after caravan, guarded not by walls but by hospitality, by oasis treaties and desert customs, by fires shared and salt exchanged. The Nabateans mastered this terrain. They built way stations. They carved it into rock. They understood that in the desert, water was wealth, shade was status, and silence was survival. Their roads did not claim the land. They learned from it. You sit on a carved step facing the treasury, and behind you a breeze winds back through the canyon. The path that brought you here is empty again, but not abandoned. These desert trails were always meant to be quiet. Their success depended on discretion. You imagine a caravan arriving at dusk, their bells soft, the camels blinking under starlight. No loud announcements, no crowds, just the shifting of loads, the scent of cinnamon or saffron lingering in linen, the soft commands in languages long, faded. Beyond Petra, more roads branch like veins, to the Wadi Rum, to the Red Sea, to trade ports now buried in salt. These roads didn't just move goods, they moved ideas. Nabatean architecture reflects Greek, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian influence stitched together with native genius. You begin to understand the desert was not isolated. It was deeply interwoven, its vastness connecting, not dividing. The sun dips lower. The treasury begins to darken, taking on the blue of dusk, the hush of stone going to sleep. You lie, back on the step, feeling the warmth of the day stored in the rock beneath you. Somewhere, a raven cries, but it's far off. The road here doesn't continue. It folds back into itself, into the curves of the canyon and the folds of history. You don't need to leave. Not yet. The air is thick with stillness, but not loneliness. It's the kind of quiet that welcomes. Let the spice trails grow soft with sand. Let the water jars rest in their niches. Let the carved gods hold their silence in stone. You are not lost in the desert. You are resting in its arms. And the road, as always, knows the way. Sleep now, where the wind follows the trail. Sleep, in the canyon that hid the city with care. Sleep beneath rose-colored stone and the path of forgotten trade. There is a curve in the land here that feels more like thought than terrain. You follow it uphill, not steeply, but insistently, a path rising through cypress and olive. The stones underfoot, cracked but present, patient. You don't need a guide. This road has been walked for thousands of years, and each footstep, even yours now, seems to remember where to fall. You are on the sacred way, the winding path that once led pilgrims to Delphi, to the navel of the ancient world, to where the gods were said to listen and sometimes speak. The sky overhead is bright but quiet. The mountain, Parnassus, looms soft and blue in the morning haze. Around you, the dry air smells of thyme and dusted pine, warmed stone and sun-ripened shadow. This road was once crowded, lined with statues, offerings, monuments from kings and cities, trying to please the divine. Every few meters there stood a reminder, a golden lion, a marble warrior, a bronze serpent. Most are gone now, looted or melted or turned to memory. What remains is space, the kind that makes you walk slower, speak softer, breathe deeper. You stop where a platform juts. Out, its edge crumbled. It once held a treasury, a small house-like temple filled with gifts to Apollo, coins, weapons, jewels, carved bowls, all offerings carried up this very path. You try to imagine the procession, robes, lyres, smoke, the hush of anticipation. But all you hear now is the wind stirring the leaves. At a bend, the view opens. Below you, valleys sweep toward the sea, terraced in green, dotted with the shadows of goat paths and far ruins. Above, the temple of Apollo waits, still, skeletal, half-whole. 6 columns still stand, reaching into sky-like questions that have learned not to expect answers. You walk toward them slowly, your steps the only sound in the dust. This was the center of the ancient world, a place not of power, but of inquiry. People came here not to demand, but to ask. The oracle, the Pythia, once sat on a tripod here, breathing vapors that rose from a chasm beneath the earth, speaking riddles in the voice of the god. Her words were poetry, layered, uncertain. No answers were handed out, only paths. Now the chasm is sealed, the altar is gone, the riddles have faded, but the place still listens. You sit on a worn block beside the temple's shadow. A bee floats near your ankle. A breeze curls between the columns. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't need to. The path continues upward, toward the theater, where rows of stone seats rise from the slope like a fossilized wave. You climb slowly. Each step hums with old applause, though the air holds no echo. At the top, the entire sanctuary lies beneath you, layered, intricate, quiet. You imagine voices asking questions that mattered deeply in their moment. Will my crops survive? Will my son return from war? Should I trust this treaty? You think of your own questions, though none rise. Not here. The mountain doesn't demand clarity. It offers pause. You lie back on a sun-warmed bench, the stone fitted to your spine not by design, but by long erosion. Above you, the cypress trees sway just enough to blur the blue sky. Somewhere nearby, a cicada sings for no one. Time stretches. The road you came up seems to drift downward into haze and light. The gods no longer speak in riddles here, but something still answers, not in words, but in stillness. In the way the breeze touches your arm like memory, in the way your breath slows without being asked. The oracle is gone, but you have arrived. Let the omens rest in their unread smoke. Let the statues fall into grass. Let the pilgrims become part of the dust. You are not here for a vision. You are here for a hushed sleep now, where gods once whispered. Through women, sleep on the stones that answered in riddles. Sleep with the leaves that no longer interpret, only dance. Asterisk, you begin not at the top, but at the base. The morning mist is heavy, curling low around your ankles as you walk, soft as memory. You are in the hills of northern China, and before you rises a path that wasn't meant to welcome, it was built to warn. And yet now, in this quiet hour, the stones don't repel. They invite, not like a friend, but like an old gate creaking. Open, still unsure whether it should. The Great Wall of China is not a single wall. It is a collection of dreams, fears, commands, and centuries. You place your foot on a worn stone step, and already the incline begins. It's steep, not just physically, but emotionally. This path once bore soldiers, messengers, laborers. Today it bears silence. As you climb, the mist thickens and pulls back, revealing parts of the wall as it snakes over ridgelines and folds into the land like a sleeping dragon. Each stone was placed with urgency once, every hand hauling it with purpose. You think of the laborers, millions, nameless. Some volunteered, many didn't. Some came home, many didn't. The wall remembers them not with plaques, but with weight. You feel it in the stones beneath your soles. The wind picks up, brushing past you like an ancient thought trying to return. In places, the wall crumbles. In others, it has been rebuilt, cleaner, smoother, but somehow less sure of itself. The original sections feel older than time. Bricks pocked with lichen, mortar cracked, watchtowers hunched like forgotten sentinels. These towers once used smoke signals to send news across impossible distances. Now they contain only birds, and the kind of silence that carries no orders. You step into one. The arch is low, the interior cool and damp. You sit on the ledge and look out through a square window onto mist and more mist. Once a soldier stood here with sharp eyes and a fire pot ready. His job was to look for trouble. Yours is simply to look. Below, the road curves again. It never stretches perfectly straight, always adjusting to terrain, to topography, to the pulse of the mountains themselves. This is not a wall built by vanity. It was built by worry, by strategy, by the long echo of footsteps not yet heard. And yet, now that the threat is gone, the wall doesn't collapse. It rests. You resume your walk. The stones grow steeper here, jagged in places, sun-bleached in others. But the view opens not just of land, but of scale. This wall, built over centuries by emperors and dynasties, stretches farther than the eye can carry. Thousands of miles, millions of bricks, a road, made to contain. But today, it feels like it releases. You pause beside a small pile of wildflowers sprouting between cracks. No one planted them, but they've taken root. Life does that, even on walls, especially on walls. You kneel and breathe them in faint, sweet, fragile. The flowers don't care what the wall once was. They only care that there's space too. Grow, you reach a crest where the wall dips and curves downward into fog. Beyond that, nothing, a white horizon, like the path has simply chosen to vanish. You sit on the edge of the stone and dangle your legs, not off a cliff, but into pause. You've walked for hours, you've crossed centuries, you've met no one, and yet you are not alone. The wall never promised peace. It only promised preparation. But now, in its long sleep, it gives something gentler, perspective. Here, at the height, with the mountains holding you steady and the clouds folding around your shoulders, you realize you don't need to finish this road. You only need to feel it. Let the signals sleep in their unseen smoke. Let the step down from their stations. Let the bricks no longer hold weight, only warmth. You are not guarding the border. You are breathing in the middle of it. Sleep now, where vigilance once stood. Sleep beside the path that forgot its fear. Sleep with the fog that has nowhere to go but here. The ground beneath you is soft. Not wild, not untouched, just long settled. You walk across a quiet field just east of the Mississippi River, and it doesn't feel like the center of anything, but it was, long ago, before the books and the flags and the loud maps. There was a city here, a city of mounds, of paths, of people. Its name today is Cahokia, but that's a label we placed after the echoes began. You look ahead. A slight rise in the distance, grassy and calm, almost modest. That's Monk's Mound, the largest earthwork in North America, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza at its base, built by hand, by basket, by patience. You walk toward it slowly, feet brushing over grass that hides roads, not paved but packed, trails etched by footsteps, worn by trade, kept in place by memory more than stone. The people who lived here, the Mississippians, were architects of earth. They didn't carve stone or write scrolls, but they moved land intentionally, reverently. Each mound had purpose, platform, burial, celestial. The roads between them were not straight lines of empire, but gentle paths of rhythm, following stars, rivers, seasons. You step onto one now, and though it's overgrown, your body still senses the pull of direction. Cahokia thrived between 1050 and 1350 CE, home to perhaps 20,000 people at its peak, more than London at the time. A city of plazas and posts, farmers and astronomers, traders and children. There were no palaces, but there was order. No written records, but knowledge flowed through woven belts, through songs, through the hands of potters shaping figures. From clay, you stop at the base of Monk's Mound. The climb isn't steep, but it's deliberate. Each terrace built layer by layer from soil carried in woven baskets. You imagine the labor, not coerced, but communal. A city built from effort shared, from ceremonies repeated, from something deeper than command. You climb slowly, and the air shifts not in temperature, but in tone. At the top, you sit. The view stretches far, over rivers, forests, railroads, and highways. Beyond the modern skyline of St. Louis, the sun drops behind the gateway arch, but your gaze stays low. You're looking for the paths, the old trails that once linked mounds to homes. Homes to workshops, workshops to other cities, now lost in trees. Cahokia was a hub of trade, of ritual, of life. Goods from as far as the Gulf Coast, the Great Lakes, the Rocky Mountains passed through here. Copper, shells, mica, stone, things carried not by conquest, but by conversation. The roads that brought them were not always visible. Sometimes they were rivers. Sometimes they were intentions. You lie back on the mound's top, arms stretched wide. The earth is warm. This height was once sacred, a platform for ceremony, for watching the stars, for speaking to the sky. Now it holds you gently, like a heartbeat slowed. Around you, crickets begin to sing. The fields grow dim. The modern city glows faintly behind a curtain of haze. But here, time folds inward. No one knows why Cahokia was abandoned. Maybe it wasn't sudden. Maybe it was simply finished. A cycle complete. The city wasn't destroyed. It was let go. Absorbed back into the land, the roads unraveled like ribbon. The mounds left not in defeat, but in dignity. Let the earth keep its gentle secrets. Let the pathways dissolve beneath roots. Let the city sleep not in ruins, but in rhythm. You are not visiting a ruin. You are lying on memory-made soft dot. Sleep now where cities rose without stone. Sleep on the roads that followed stars. Sleep where the earth grew tall, then lay down again. Asterisk, the air is thin here. It enters your lungs more slowly, like it must be. Earned, around you, mountains rise in waves, not like walls, but like ancient breath, exhaled and frozen. You are high in the Andes, walking a stone path that clings to the spine of cliffs. The trail beneath your feet is narrow, fitted with deliberate care, and it doesn't wind so much as ascend. This is part of the Capac own, the Royal Inca road system, thousands of kilometers of stone, rope, and persistence. You walk not on the surface of the earth, but along its edges. These roads weren't built to control the land. They were built to connect over snowcaps, ravines, deserts, jungles. The Inca did not flatten the terrain. They listened to it. You step carefully. Stone to stone, your breath shallow. Below, valleys stretch into mist. Above, the sun glows like a coin just out of reach. The road curves, as if tracing the bones of the mountains themselves. You pause to rest on a ledge where once a tambo's, a way station, may have stood. Messengers rested here. So did thoughts. Inca, Chasqui, young runners, once flew along. These trails, They carried messages across impossible distances, relayed from one heartbeat to another. No horses, no wheels, just legs, lungs, and the strength of memory. You close your eyes and almost hear the thud of their sandals on stone. You wonder what it felt like to carry someone else's words inside your body, and to trust the path. To hold you ahead, a narrow bridge once spanned a chasm. It's gone now, the grass ropes long decayed. You stop at the edge, where the stone trail breaks off like a sentence left unfinished. The gap is quiet, but it hums. These rope bridges, rebuilt regularly by hand, were part of the road, not apart from it. Made of woven, itchy grass, they swayed with every step but held firm for centuries. They were living infrastructure, mended by ritual and community. You turn and walk a different route down this time. Switchbacks carved into cliffside, stairs worn smooth. The Inca did not believe in wasted space. Even the narrowest trail served something greater. Connection between Cusco, the sacred capital, and the furthest village in the mountains. This wasn't empire by force. It was empire by thread. You pass a wall where stones fit so tightly together, not even air slips through. No mortar, just precision, patience, understanding. Every rock knew its place. You touch it, and the warmth of the day still clings to the stone. Not hot, just held. The clouds roll in slowly now, soft and sure. They descend as you descend, until the road is swallowed in whiteness. Visibility vanishes, but the path remains. You trust it, one step after another, guided not by sight, but by shape. Even now, centuries after the empire fell, these trails still work. Not for power, for memory. You reach a flattened space, a ceremonial overlook, perhaps, where the trail opens briefly. No one speaks here, not even the wind. You sit, your back against a curved stone. The cloud wraps around you like slow water. You are invisible now, even to the mountain, and it feels like rest. Let the messages find their end. Let the runners set down their breath. Let the clouds keep moving through stone. You are not climbing toward a city. You are descending into stillness. Sleep now, where roads met sky. Sleep in the fog that once welcomed empires. Sleep where footsteps vanish into cloud. You begin underground. The air is still, but not stale. It carries the scent of limestone, of shadowed corners, of something very old, trying not to be forgotten. Your steps echo faintly, tapping softly along paved slabs, worn smooth by feet you'll never meet. This isn't a road made for horses or wheels. It was carved for pilgrims, and still it leads. These are the hidden roads beneath Jerusalem, beneath the market stalls and motorbikes, beneath domes and divisions, beneath time as we measure it. Once these stone corridors were open to the sky. You walk now in what was the pilgrimage road, part of the path to the second temple, but the world above has changed. Earth has covered it, politics have rerouted it, and silence has softened it. The tunnel curves slightly, rising gently as if remembering ascent. On either side, rough-hewn stones line the path, their edges softened by centuries of touch. This was not a royal road. It was a road for the faithful people, bringing offerings, questions, grief. Their feet shaped this place more than any chisel. Every worn patch in the stone is a prayer smoothed into geometry. You pass a niche in the wall, empty now. It may once have held a lamp or a jug or a moment of pause. There are still lamps here, modern ones, dim, golden casting, light like memories on the ancient stones. You watch their shadows ripple as you walk. The walls don't speak, but they don't need to. Above you, life continues. Conversations, sandals on pavement, the click of cameras, the clatter of devotion. But down here, the stillness folds in on itself like a hymn. The city above is made of arguments and echoes. This place is made of echo alone. You reach a point where the ceiling lowers and the air cools. A small water channel runs along one side, barely a trickle now. You follow it with your fingers, feeling the groove etched deep. Someone long ago depended on this water. Someone knelt here. Someone rinsed dust from their hands before entering holy space. You don't know their names, but the water does. You keep walking. The tunnel widens, then narrows. Stones shift underfoot in places, uneven but still sure. You think about how many layers of belief are pressed into this earth. How many gods have been worshipped above and below. How many times this city has been destroyed and rebuilt, always on the same foundations, always reaching upward with the same longing. The road ends not with a wall, but a silence deeper than any stone. You stop. In the hush, you feel a kind of weightless gravity, not pulling you down, but drawing you in. This is where words once ended, where the faithful stopped walking and began waiting. You sit on a low bench carved into the wall. You lean back, and the stone holds you. One of the old lamps flickers slightly, and for a moment, the entire tunnel seems to breathe. The light doesn't reveal anything new. It just reminds you that something has been here all along. Let the temple stay unbuilt. Let the prayers float free. Let the roads remember what belief felt like beneath the feet. You are not heading toward a gate. You are already beneath the threshold. Sleep now, where footsteps softened the holy. Sleep in the tunnels where light learned to wait. Sleep where silence once carried the sacred home.